Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Puck in Deep with your very, very special host, Mr. Pearlo Wisdom. How you doing, Pearlo?
Oh, doing excellent, dude. Got a
I'm telling.
New Year's coming now. I've been having a lot of fun. World Juniors happening and everything that's been going on. It's been great. Loving it.
Exactly. Mr. Lyle Richardson from Spectres Hockey. How you doing, sir? Thank you very much
I'm
for joining
doing.
us.
Oh, it's always a pleasure. Thanks for having me back on. Appreciate it.
Great, man. How was your new year?
Fantastic. Enjoying, doing what like with Pearlo and enjoying the World Juniors. And of course, before that at Christmas time, the Spengler Cup. As I was telling you before the show, before Pearlo came on, I enjoy watching the Spengler Cup first because that's
Yes.
during the round robin of the World Juniors. So that's for me,
Yes.
that's not too serious. It's always fun to watch the Spengler Cup out of Switzerland, and then switch over for for the real stuff when the World Juniors gets down to the nitty gritty. But
There you
yeah.
go. So now, quick question for you, and this can apply to either one of you two because Perlo, you used to live in Canada, and Lyle, you still do. Are the World Juniors or have the World Juniors been broadcast on TV in Canada?
Oh yeah. It
Not
it's it
like not on the NHL network.
no, well, it here it's run on what they on Canada's version of ESPN, which is called TSN.
TSN. Yeah.
And
Okay.
it's the Christmas tradition here. I mean, they highly they don't I don't even know why they bother to publicize or anything like that because everybody knows when it's going to be,
Right.
and they all know
Okay.
it's going to be on TSN. So, oh yeah, it's a
All
big
right.
deal up here. Yep.
Okay. Well, there you go then. Are you listening to that? United States, you catching on to that, man? You know what
Yep.
I'm saying? Like,
Get on to
ring,
it,
ring,
man.
ring, ring, clue phone. You got some really great teams playing. They're playing in your house in
Mm,
Minnesota. I mean,
yeah,
come on.
no
Hmm.
doubt.
Get with the pro jam. All right. Because look, let's face it. 70% of the players that played in the World Juniors this past World Juniors Championship were drafted players,
Hmm.
Mhm.
right? A good
Some of them have
portion of
already had a taste of the NHL too.
this, and some of them have already had a now they're all under 20, but
Yep.
some of them have had a taste of the NHL. Some of them are playing in college right now, but a good portion of them have already been drafted.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yep.
so you I don't know. I think there needs to be more, especially now with how things have changed with them opening up the CHL and the NCAA, and that whole landscape has completely changed. I really think that United States, because now they're becoming a quintessential place to come to go play and learn hockey.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah, I
You
mean the
know,
U.S. college ranks and the U.S. and NTDP, the United States Development Program. I mean they're world class. I mean I've been beating the drum about this up here in Canada for the last 20 years that the American college system and the development program is going to turn the United States into a world class hockey power. And
Absolutely.
here we are 20 years later. Yeah, exactly.
yeah.
And, you're seeing some of the best players in the world, are coming out of the United States. I mean, Canada still produces many of the best. The other traditional hockey playing nations, of course, like Sweden and Finland and so on, Russia,
Right,
even
right,
though they weren't, we won't get into that, but even though they weren't part of the
right.
tournaments in that, they're still producing, terrific talent.
Yep.
But the United States has really come along in the last 20 to 25 years with the way that they develop talent.
Exactly.
And up here in Canada, whenever we don't win the World Juniors, people are wondering, "Oh, what's wrong with Canadian hockey?" There's nothing wrong with Canadian hockey. Canadian hockey's, I mean, there are some things that need to improve. It's not perfect.
Right.
But the bottom line is we still produce some of the best talent, most elite talent in the world. The bottom line is that the rest of the world has caught up. Once upon a time, we used to go out and not all that long ago, we used to go and crush teams like
Yes.
Czechia and Slovakia and Latvia
And
and countries like
right.
that. And
Yep.
now, These are teams that if they're not beating Canada, they're giving them a run for their money. There's no such thing as an easy game in the World Juniors anymore. You can say, well,
Exactly.
Canada crushed Denmark 9-1. Yeah, and wait 5 to 10 years. And those are going to be hang on Harvey games after that. So that's just the way it is. The world is caught up, and that's great for
It
hockey
is.
because
Yeah.
it's boring as hell when only two or three countries. I'm serious.
It is.
Boring as hell when only two or three countries are dominant and all the rest are just also rants. That's a problem for women's hockey right now. And I love watching women's hockey. I
I
do.
agree.
But it's only Canada, the United States, and then there's everybody else. And until other countries start bringing up their game, watching those international tournaments for me, I'm sorry, but I mean, I love watching them play. Of course,
Me
I'll cheer
too.
for the Canadian girls when they're playing. But at the end
Right.
of the day, if they
It's
win or lose, well, it would be
yeah.
nice to see another country get in there and pull off an upset and really start generating more global interest in women's hockey.
And I don't and I'm going to go off on a little bit of a tangent here because you mentioned it, Lyle. And I'm sorry, Pearl, I'll get to you here in a minute, but I really feel that women's hockey needs to be more elevated in this country. They have a professional women's hockey league, but
Hmm.
it's it's gone through a lot of adversity and it's gone through a lot of issues with getting the administration and things set up and stuff like that, and it just hasn't been an easy go, you know. And you're absolutely right, Lyle. It's the United States and it's Canada and the women's, and then that's it. And even other countries like Czechia and Germany, Japan, and I mean they put a team out, but I mean seriously, you watch the games, it's like 11-1. Who wants to watch that? That's not very exciting to watch. You know what I mean? And so I'm with you, but I'm with you as well. I'm going to root for the women as well, and anytime that they play. Perlo, what have you thought about the World Juniors here that we've
Well,
so
like usual, Lyle makes you think, and it's true. What you get at the World Juniors now, Canada can't just throw some team together and just go out and outpower the other team. If you watch that game with the Czechs, they all played them team wise.
yeah,
Like
Yep.
these are players that play with each other on a lot more regular basis than Canada does. You can't just go out and put a team together and hope that it works out anymore. Not that it would before. You would just put your team together and they just outclassed everybody. But
yeah,
now you got teams like Czech and Sweden. That game, awesome for you guys, for Sweden to be able to win that goal. You deserved it. That was a great, not players on the team. That was a great team,
yeah,
Yep.
and that
yeah.
is what's winning here now in the juniors now. So we got to start building in Canada. Or I say we because I'm not living in Canada now, but I still consider myself Canadian. We got to start building teams.
Yeah,
Like you have to go in now with a team that is going to be cohesive together and play. You can't just outskill the other team anymore. And we saw it this year. We had the better players, probably Canadians did anyways,
Hmm.
but we didn't have a better team unit. And I think you're going to see a lot more of this. And like Lyle says, that's good. That's good.
you know, it's
There's
yeah,
sorry.
no, it's funny you mentioned that, Perlo, because even though Canada had one of the best power plays in the tournament, and they were some of the higher scoring games for the Canadians. You could definitely tell that it wasn't quite as a cohesive unit as the Sweden team. You could definitely tell. You know what I mean? Because
Yeah.
there was only, I believe, I believe there was three players on the Canadian team that weren't drafted. Right, Gavin McKenna being one of them, but he's such an amazing player that you can't tell that he wasn't drafted. You know, he blended in so well with
Right.
the other players. You know what I mean? So I don't know. I I thought the United States. I didn't think they were going to repeat or three-peat. I just didn't think they had. quite the team that they were able to put out on the ice. I thought their goaltending was a little lacking in this tournament, and felt that that's kind of what let them down a little bit. And some of their penalties and taking the penalty and their penalty kill wasn't quite so good, you know, and that let the United States down. So I just like, hey, all I have to do is just say it's hockey because everywhere you look, it's hockey. There's the NHL, there's the World Juniors, then you had the Winter Classic, right? And then I mean, I don't know. This is a great time of year, right?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It's great about
I
the World Juniors is at least you can see tomorrow's stars today.
Yeah,
For lack of a
and
better phrase, you're seeing tomorrow's stars today. And yeah, it's a great way to be able for a lot of hockey fans who hear of these players, but they're almost like mythical beings in a way. It's just like
Yeah.
yeah.
we have heard of this player, oh yes, but we have
Yeah.
not ever seen him. Therefore, we do not know if he really exists. Well, then you can see the guy go out there and light it up, and you're like, oh, so that is who the Zane Perry character is. Ooh,
You
yes,
know,
how
right?
fascinating.
Right?
Oh, this is a Gavin McKenna. That's what it looks like.
Well
Ah, I
said.
see.
Yeah.
You don't often see them in the wild. Yes,
Yeah.
quite.
Yeah,
But you
exactly.
know what I
Right.
mean, right? I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah,
No,
yeah.
no,
I'm
no.
being a little
No,
silly,
No.
but
totally.
honestly, yeah, you get a chance to really get your first glimpse of these promising young players, and that builds excitement for the draft in 6 months' time.
It does.
Hockey action, especially after all the World Junior fun we had. So,
Exactly, exactly. And man, great World Junior Championships. Congratulations to the Sweden for winning the gold, man. That was an awesome game. Um, uh, Canada got bronze,
bronze.
yeah.
Yep,
Yeah,
yep.
right. So
Got to
congrats
take home the
to
silver.
there you go. All right. So there you go. Way to go, guys. It was a great tournament. But what I really kind of want to focus in on here is, Lyle, I guess you put this out on a regular basis, your big trade board rumor mill thing, right? Like, okay, look, I'm going to be real honest with you here, folks. I have just within the last probably 7 months caught on to Mr. Lyle Richardson's writings and musings in the NHL and was able to hook up with him. And I know that Pearlo has been following Lyle for many, many years. And
Yep.
man, I got really lucky when I got to meet you on the OMB Puck show, and we hit it off. And everything that I read from you, Lyle, is very, very good stuff, man. And I do not have a problem with promoting him. And if you guys get a chance, you need to hop on over to Spectre's Hockey and get this guy on your feed, man, for sure. Get this guy on when you're scrolling by, you need to be reading the stuff that this man's putting out. Where is all your outlets, man? Where do you write for?
Well, of course, my own site, spectreshockey.net. I also write for Bleacher Report, which is, of course, going to where it is the topic of what we're
Yeah,
going to be
yeah.
discussing is one of the things we write for, and also for the hockey news, and if you're in Germany, ice hockey news as well, and my also my hometown paper. So yeah, I kind of spread it around. That's the fun of freelancing. You got to pick up a buck where you can get it. So.
There you go, man, for sure, for sure. Perlo, hey man, thank you very much for joining us.
Yeah.
Uh Tell you what, man, why don't you tell the folks where we can find all your great stuff, man? Because I know you're real busy right now.
Yes, absolutely. The Ice Guys course I'm on there Monday and Wednesdays, voted best NHL betting podcast in North America. Still to this day, we're still on the top of the list there.
There you
And you
go.
can catch me at Rico and Perla's house of exotic Jaime's NHL picks frolic at 9:30 Eastern every
Yeah,
day.
he got it
Get
right.
all our
He
picks
got it
there.
right.
I know I don't quite often get the title right myself,
Oh,
but yeah, catch me on there as well. Crushing big time right now. As far as they're just always are, we're always hitting hard there and having fun. That's the main thing. Having a good time doing
exactly.
NHL picks, and of course, pucking deep right here
You
now
got it. You
as
got
we
it.
talk about what the NHL, and we get in deep on all the topics here.
Exactly, exactly. And that's why I wanted to bring Lyle on because of his most recent publishing of his big trade board and rumor mills and everything else like that. And I was, it's always a great read, everything that you put out, Lyle. I always love your perspective on things. But I have to tell you, I was a little shocked at some of the names that were on your list here. You put out a top 15 list of players that you feel, and correct me if I'm wrong, top 15 players that you feel are in consideration or potentially being thought about for being traded.
Well, when I do the trade big board for Bleacher Report, which I do every month, by the way, every month,
Okay.
usually within the first 5 days of each month, depending on the schedule. But I always do start off each month with a new one, and they're mostly based on what's been reported in the NHL media, among the NHL media for rumors over the previous month. And we go, I go through them now, and that's where I make my compilations, and it's based on, of course, on player skill, on their contract status, but also on the likelihood that they'll get traded. So if you're at, say, now I've got a 15 player list right now. If you're at number 15, that means the likelihood of you getting traded is pretty low. Whereas, of course, if you're number one, ding, 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 you're going to be on the move before the March trade deadline. So
Okay. All right. That's what
that's
I
how we
wanted to
break
get
them
from
down.
you. All right. That's
Yeah.
what I wanted to get from you. What was the breakdown of how
Yep.
you determined the players that were on the list? So that absolutely makes much more sense now as to why you would put Austin Matthews at number 15.
Skill level, he is number one on that. He would be number one, of course, of
Yeah.
the 15 players on that list. There is no question. But the reason why he got on that list is because up until recently, up until right before Christmas, actually, December was turning into a house of horrors for the Toronto Maple Leafs. At one point, they were at the bottom of the Eastern Conference
Yes,
standings.
they
In fact,
were.
there was, and they are also at the bottom of the Atlantic Division, which sparked a wonderful joke up here. That is, what do the Maple Leafs and the Titanic both have in common? They're both at the bottom of the Atlantic. Ta-da! So there you go with that. Thank
All
you.
right.
Not
That's
mine.
a
I got
golf
that from
clap.
somebody else, but I thought that was worth passing on.
That's a golf clap.
And anyway, that prompted right before Christmas, though, Sportsnet's Nick Kyprios was asked, because Matthews had been struggling to score, he'd been bothered a bit with nagging injuries and that sort of thing, and he was asked, what do you think, if the season keeps going the way they're going, if they miss the playoffs, what could happen? And he said he believed that management in the off season would have to go and have the talk with Austin Matthews about possibly waiving his no movement clause. He thought that they would have to have the talk. And that, of course, prompted, well, what if it looks like they're going to miss the playoffs? If they're still down at the bottom of the standings before the trade deadline,
Yeah.
what happens then? So basically, that's why his name popped up there. But in all honesty, I don't see the Toronto Maple Leafs. If like currently now the Leafs the last 2 weeks since they fired Mark Savard as their power play coach, they've played much better, and they're starting to move back up in the standings, and they're within easy striking distance of a wild card berth. So I do not see them taking the
Okay.
nuclear option and trading away their franchise player, and they really don't have any need to. The guy's got 2 more years left on his contract. It would really be an overreaction. The only way I could see that happening is if Matthews himself comes to them and says, "Look, this isn't working out, and I
Yeah.
want out." But there is
Okay.
no indication that he's done that. But
Okay.
felt it had to be worth noting. You'd stick it up there because maybe over the next
Okay.
couple months, stranger things have happened. Who saw Mikko Rantanen getting traded this time last year? So
That's true. That's true. That's very, very
yeah.
true. Thoughts on that, Perlo, with potential?
Well, it's interesting. It might have got to that point. I mean, Lyle would definitely know that there was a situation or things were starting to go a certain direction in Toronto where they were getting a little bit worried. I don't. I still think they're kind of in retool mode in Toronto, and if they make the
Yeah.
playoffs, that's great. I don't think they're going to be like buyers like crazy at all, but I to think that Matthews may be moved in this situation, maybe he was unhappy, or whatever the case may be, it kind of makes sense, is what I'm trying to say. It kind of makes sense that they could have went that direction if things were really going to keep on going south the way they were. Um, One thing I will say is I did uh, take a plus 350 bet on Toronto to miss the playoffs this year. The thing is what I think has been happening here is you have a Berube. If you know Berube, like I know you know Berube, he's an old school dude. And I think what he's been doing is he's just been tearing down this team in a sense of like the old military, wherever you beat everybody down and then you lift them up. And I have a feeling that Toronto may have a bit of a push after this. However, if that push doesn't work, I wouldn't. I mean, it's you had 15th on the list. I wouldn't be surprised if they decide to go a completely different direction here. And Matthews is they have conversations with him to kind of move on and totally rebuild things in Toronto. It's an interesting perspective, no doubt about that.
Right.
Um, but yeah, it's I don't think it's outlandish to think that that could happen. So I don't mind
Okay.
that being on the list, to tell you the
Okay.
honest
Well,
truth.
let me pose this question to both of you gentlemen, and I'll start with you, Perlo. What if they do continue to slide and say, because like we're a month out now from between now and the Olympic break, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So we're about a month out, right? So that's a pretty significant number of games considering the condensed schedule that we're going to be dealing with, right? So let's say by the Olympic break that they're still scraping the bottom of the barrel.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't get that bump, and they are down there at the still down there at the bottom by the
Mm-hmm.
Olympic break. Okay, and say, what if they say they fire Berube? Because I mean, there is that possibility. There very well likely is that possibility because of some of the things that we've seen him say in the media and
Mm-hmm.
things of that nature. You know what I mean? That usually doesn't bode well for a coach if he's coming out to the media saying some of that kind of stuff. And Perlo, you hit the nail on the head by saying that he's a pretty old school type of coach. So Perlo, what if they fire him? Now does that change the dynamic now with Austin Matthews? Do you think?
Well, I think if you fire Berube now, you're basically saying you're going a completely different direction because you hire
Okay.
Berube to go the direction that you're going.
Yeah, right.
You want to get a grindy, more a team that's going to be more not so perimeter and all of those sort of things like that. And I think Berube's been really fighting getting these guys to get that way up until now. Like it seems pretty obvious to me that Berube has been saying, "Look, you want to be this team? I'm going to go that way, and if you don't like it, then I guess I move on." But like you said, where do you go from there? And is Matthews on the, you know, are you
Yeah,
looking at a complete rebuild in Toronto? I think that's the question
right.
that you have here. I'm not sure about whether that's the case, but uh, I mean, if you're going to get rid of Berube now, I think you're looking at an organization that is in a pretty, they're going to call it a retool, but pretty deep rebuild
Okay.
if you're going to go off of that, because this was the whole point of hiring him to begin with.
Yeah. Okay. And Lyle, you do you kind of feel the same way, or are you going a different way, or
I would say that you're more than likely to see a change in management before you would see Berube fired, and definitely before you would see Austin Matthews traded. Again,
okay.
Yeah.
Austin Matthews gets traded only if he asks to be traded.
Right.
Otherwise, until that day comes, they're not going to trade him.
Right. Okay.
And I would say it's Brad Treliving, the GM, who is more likely, to
Yeah.
be moved than
Okay.
anything else.
Okay. All right. So I want to move on to another player
Yep.
that you have on your list. And this is we're only moving up a couple notches to number 13, and that's Steven Stamkos.
Hmm.
And I really wanted to touch on this because I've also seen some of the same, probably, or different rumors that that he might potentially be on the block as well too. And if that's the case, Lyle, what does that mean that for Nashville then, and or what teams could he potentially go to?
Well, right off the bat, we got to remember Stamkos has a full no movement clause, just like Austin Matthews. Full no movement
Right.
clause. Nothing happens without his say so.
Okay.
And honestly, I mean, yeah, we saw a lot more speculation about Stamkos through the first couple of months of the season. The Predators weren't playing well. They had some key guys out with injuries, including Roman Josi, their top defenseman.
Right. Right.
And Stamkos was off to a slow start.
Right.
And yeah, there was a lot of question about, maybe even Andrew Brunette, their head coach, could get fired. But Barry Trotz stayed the course with these guys, and over the past month, they have turned things around. And Stamkos, by the way, has gotten red hot over
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
period.
500 points now.
Yeah, well, and he's back scoring the type of goals we're used to seeing him score.
Right.
And he's played a big part in that resurgence. I mean, the last I saw, I believe there were only a point or two out of a wild card berth in the Western Conference, which was a big change from where they were a month ago when it looked like that ship was just going to capsize and
Yeah.
and go
Yeah.
down. So, right now, again, I have Stamkos low on that list. I don't rule it out. Pierre LeBrun of the Athletic, he's pretty well connected with what's going on there in Nashville,
Mm-hmm.
and he was saying that he doesn't rule out the possibility that he thinks Barry Trotz would still be open to offers, or that he's willing to listen to offers for Stamkos and also Jonathan Marchessault as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
But you know, again, you can't rule anything out. But given the way they're playing right now, if they maintain this, I don't see Stamkos going anywhere.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I mean, I
Yeah.
think I think we're gonna get another judgment point here right before the Olympic break.
Mm,
Do you know what I mean? Because now that's gonna put us like not quite. I mean, we're already past halfway now.
hmm
You know what I mean? And you add another month worth of condensed games, we're gonna be a lot closer to the 2/3 way, right? You know what I mean? And at
Yeah.
that point, then the trade deadline's only going to be a month out, right? So okay, Perla, what do you think about the potential of Stamkos? Do you see him?
It's tough because this Nashville team has been built on a big family type team. That's what Barry Trotz builds. They
Yeah,
build family teams. If you remember, the Islanders didn't really trade too many players too often. He really believed in having like a family cohesion. And I get the feeling that Stamkos has kind of found his home there and built it in Nashville. I'm not sure he's moving on in this situation. Nashville's been playing extremely well
yeah,
for based on their lineup as of late, and I think that has a lot to do with it. And the whole reason why he probably got Stamkos was to build that in Nashville. So, I mean, I'm not saying it's impossible that he could move on from here. Maybe, he's done his work and there's a lot of players there that can bring what he's already bringing, but it seems like he's really bought into to his place in Nashville. So it's hard to say. You're talking about a big contract where you're going to have to retain money to move him somewhere. My guess is if he were to move, it would be to the back to the Tampa Bay Lightning again, much like what McDonough did. And you get a couple players in return, and he kind of says, you know what, I feel like I've done everything I can here, and I've tried the best I can. In long term, I'm not sure that this is working out as much as we thought it was going to work out. So I wouldn't mind going to Tampa again, and if Tampa's willing to do it, I could see something like that happening. But um, from what I've seen so far, I think Nashville has built a really good family there, and he's been the leader of that family. And I have
yeah,
a
for
hard
sure.
time believing that they're going to kind of
Okay.
like sell off at this point with him, with what they brought him in to bring him to be. He's pretty much did everything except he's had difficulty with offense or being the player that you want him to be offensively. But as of late, he's even done that. He's been
hmm
scoring.
Yeah, oh
He's been
yeah.
leading the team. He's been like a big leader for that team. So
Yeah, exactly. You're starting to
it's
see
hard
the
to.
Stamkos. You're starting to see that Stamkos that we thought we were going to see when he initially got traded. We're now
Yeah,
starting to see that now from him.
Yeah.
You know what I
yeah.
mean? Right. So,
Yeah.
okay.
So
But with that being said, though, I, I kind of feel that there's a possibility. I mean, I know everybody's saying that's family and Lyle, I understand what you're saying, but the fact that there's even that potential for a consideration, and quite frankly, it all, as far as I'm concerned, one man's trash is another man's treasure. And it might not be something like that. It more might be where, hey, if I can get rid of Stamkos and get picks or get prospects, or what can I do to get to, kind of like what Tampa Bay did when they traded Stamkos, and if maybe they can get something in return for him, then, but I don't know. I just wanted to see what your take was on it. I read the article. I thought it was really good, and I wanted your take on it. So I'm going to jump ahead a little bit on the list. Um, some of the other names you had on there, Bennington, Shen from St. Louis, Bobby Brink from Flyers. I'm going to go all the way to number 6 with Panarin from the New York Rangers, and that in of itself is an enigma as far as I'm concerned. Okay, just because of his whole wanting to be there in New York
Hmm.
from where he came from, right? He came from Columbus and he wanted to be in that limelight. He wanted to be in that city. He wanted to be, in that area, that place. And now he is. And so talk to me about why he is number 6 on the list.
Well, he's number 6 on the list primarily because he is a pending unrestricted free agent. He's eligible for UFA status on July 1st, and the Rangers right now are in trouble. They have not shown any sign at all of being able to surge up into the standings and hang on to a playoff berth. And losing Igor Shesterkin now, we don't know. As of late, I haven't heard any updates before I came on the show here regarding what his status is going to be.
Right,
But if
right.
he's going to be out long term with a lower body injury, that's going to be really tough for them to come back on. I know they got Jonathan Quick there as a backup, but
Yeah.
regardless, it's not a good situation there. He's already informed them that he will not accept less than his current annual average value, which is 11.6 mil, on a new deal. In other words, he's not going to take a hometown discount to stay in New York.
Right, right.
And the bottom line is now you're starting to hear the rumblings coming out of the New York media saying, look, if this team, if they're not in playoff contention by the trade deadline, that means basically once it come out of the Olympic break, if they're not there, it's time to talk with him and find out if he's willing to waive his no movement clause. If he is, which teams. So then, if you're Chris Drury, the GM, then you get on the horn and see what you can get from those teams. And bottom line here is, the more teams he's willing to go to, the better the Rangers' opportunity to get a quality return. Because you don't want it to be a situation like the Bruins faced with Brad Marchand at last year's trade deadline, where there was only
Yeah.
one team he's willing to go to, and that was the
Right.
Flyers or the Flyers, the
Ah.
Panthers. Psych. But
Woo.
that was the Panthers. That was the only team he wanted to go to, and that's why they only got, I believe, it was a second round pick.
Right.
It's easy to pay that price when that's the only team they want to go to. So the more
Yeah.
teams he'd be willing to go to, the better the
Higher
return for
the
the
price.
Rangers.
Yeah.
But
Hmm.
that's the situation now. Are they going to trade him right now? No. But the fact that the situation, as I've just laid it out to you, the way it is, that's why I put him at number 6 on my list. I think there is a very good possibility he could be traded, and I think that likelihood will increase. We get close to the trade deadline, because hey, if you don't want to let this guy go for nothing, if he's not going to sign with you, if
Yeah.
he's not going to accept less money to stay, if he's absolutely refusing to do it, then you got to move on. You got to
Yeah.
get what you can for him and move on. So
Exactly. Perlo, I know that the New York Rangers, where did you have them picked for this year? Did you had them missing the playoffs this year or no?
yeah, I did. I did
Yeah,
have
okay.
them missing the playoffs this year. Um, as far as the Panarin, that like great spot. Great. Uh, he could very well be on the move here. If you remember correctly, he started in Chicago. He
Hmm.
told them that he was going to play for nobody other than New York or LA. And they traded him to Columbus, I believe it was. I
Yeah.
can't remember what the return back was, but he played there for 2 years and he was honest all the way through. He said, I'm playing for New York or I'm playing for LA. You know why that was? Because his wife is a model.
Yeah.
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 So it was like those two markets gave his wife the ability to be able to be in a market and live her dream, which I people got all mad about it. I'm like, why are you getting mad about that? You're taking care of your other half and putting them in the best situation that you can. And he was very honest about it right from the beginning.
Yeah.
However, now I don't know how much modeling she's done. That was like
Yeah.
that was
Right.
quite a few years ago now.
Yeah. Right.
The, you know,
Well, I
I
recall
don't.
another player doing that. Very well known player who's no longer with us, who went to Columbus because his wife was a pediatric nurse.
Oh yeah, yes, that's
Hmm.
right.
Right.
She wanted to work at one of the best hospitals in North America there in Columbus,
Right.
Goudreau.
And that
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Goudreau, and that was Johnny
Yeah,
Goudreau's wife, right? You know what I
yeah,
mean? And so,
yeah. And people were
uh,
questioning that, like, what is it? Why does she need to? It was her dream, whatever her dream is.
Exactly.
You know what I'm here in Indiana for? My wife's dream was to be.
ding! See, that's why I
That's
wanted to
right.
say that, Pearlo.
That's why I'm here.
There you
Her
go.
dream was to be what her job now that she has is her dream job, and I moved here for that reason. So, it doesn't
Boom.
have. It wasn't really. Not everything is financial.
No.
But now Panarin may be willing to move to somewhere more family orientated and stuff like that. Is he's had I think he's had two children since then. So I don't
Okay.
know how much modeling she's doing. I don't
Right.
know if he wouldn't be against moving on after the whole uh, situation that's gone with Truba,
Yeah.
Kreider. I mean, there's
Yeah.
been
Yeah.
some
Yeah.
organizational difficulties there.
Hmm.
This one I really like. And this one I wouldn't be surprised of at all, especially if New York can't get it all together and uh, and put themselves in a position where they feel like they could do something in the playoffs. I could definitely see Panarin moving on here at the deadline. This is one that out of all of them, I could see happening, whether it be at the deadline or in the off season or something like that. I mean, Drury has been kind of moving on and trying to recreate a new environment with New York. They made Miller a captain. They traded away some very popular players in Kreider and Truba and all that kind of stuff like that. So I could see this happening. And the name, I don't know. I'm going to ask Lyle, the team that keeps on popping up, and I think it's because his agent is the same agent as Kaprizov. And I keep on hearing Minnesota's name popping up in this situation. And when you just think they already got Hughes,
Quinn Hughes. Yeah.
Minnesota did, and now I imagine they're going to continue being buyers to be a winning team for the next couple of years until Hughes makes his decision.
Right.
That does not surprise me at all. So I wouldn't doubt that we would. I'm not saying that's going to be the case, but it does make some sense that Panarin moves on here. And I think Minnesota has shown that they're willing to give up big packages for what they want. They did it with Hughes. That was a big
Hmm.
package.
Yes, it was.
BU, first round pick, all of
Yeah.
those things that
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
gave
And
up.
and you.
They still have some prospects there. They still have.
Yeah.
I
They did a good job on that package.
and
And
then also they have Tarasenko. It didn't really make much sense bringing Tarasenko into that lineup, but it makes more sense if you're bringing in another Russian, Tarasenko, Kaprizov. They love to play together. Yeah, you see what I'm saying.
The
Right, right,
one
right.
thing I would say about that, and I'm gonna have to wrap this up really quickly, Ron. I'm sorry, I'm reaching my time here, but I just wanted to answer Perlo's question. And I mean, Minnesota's not a bad destination, but Minnesota really wants to improve their depth at center.
Yeah.
That's the word that I've heard out of Minnesota is that they really would prefer, and it's not going to be easy, honestly. I mean, as
Yeah.
we know, not a lot of quality centers there. But Panarin, well, listen, they've already got like one of the best left wings in the world in Kaprizov. Yeah,
Yeah, I agree.
you could bring Panarin in there. You absolutely could. I think he probably would be a good fit in there. I wouldn't rule it out, but their really big push now is to bring a center because you're right, they're not done making moves. They're really
No,
not done.
No,
They're going to make
no.
not.
another swing. Absolutely, I agree with you wholeheartedly. One team for me, I think you should keep an eye out on if you're looking for a destination for Panarin. If he wants to go to a contender, Carolina, because they are
Ooh.
loaded with trade deadline cap space. They have over 34 million in trade deadline cap space. They can bring
Hmm.
in
And
anybody,
and they got
anybody.
Svechnikov down there too, so that's
They
another
have
Russian.
Svechnikov
So
there, yeah,
you
but
know,
they're a little thin on left wing though. Beyond
right?
Svechnikov, well, right now like they're kind of alternating Svechnikov and Nikolai Ehlers there,
Yeah,
and their
yeah,
second
yeah.
line left wing is Taylor Hall. Taylor Hall,
Mm-hmm.
bless him, but he's not the same Taylor
Not,
Hall he
no,
was
he's not.
5 years ago.
No, he's
You
not.
bring Panarin into there because remember they went after Rantanen last year.
Yeah, they
And when it
did.
didn't work out, they sent him to Dallas, and they got Logan Stankoven back as part of that return. They're very happy with that. But they're going to make, I'm telling you, Eric Tulsky, the GM, is going to make a big move before the deadline
There
again.
you
And
go.
I would not be surprised if Panarin becomes available, if he's willing to go there. Oh, yeah, because they definitely have the cap space. That's not a problem for them at all. And
Wow.
they do have depth in prospect. They don't have, they've only got their first round pick and two six-round picks in this year's draft. So they're not giving up their first, I don't
Yeah,
think.
they're not.
But they
Yeah, they're
have
not
their
giving up
other
picks.
firsts.
Yeah.
But
So I wouldn't be surprised.
A guy like Nadeau, maybe, or something like that.
Yeah, I was
For
thinking that
yeah.
too. Bradley
Yeah. But
Okay.
the
Nadeau
only
could
thing
be.
is the same thing with Minnesota and Carolina, and you got to go, and I don't want to bother you anymore. But
No,
don't they have the same problem in Carolina with the center depth, or are they very happy with Stankoven
no,
there?
they're fine with Stankoven in there. Plus, they've also got Seth Jarvis, who's like a utility player. He can play any one of those 3, 4 positions. And of course,
Mm.
Sebastian Aho is their number one guy. So they're
Yeah.
okay there. And of course, Jordan Stahl, their captain, is entrenched in that third line center position, of course. So I don't think
Never
they're in
thought
too bad
about
a
that.
shape there. But
Okay.
yeah,
But that would be very intriguing. Lyle, thank you very much. Listen, we're going to have the link to this article will be in the show. We'll also have links
thank
to
you, sir.
Spectre's Hockey in there as well too. Lyle, thank you very much for hopping on and joining us. Perlo, thank you very much for hopping on and joining us, man. I really appreciate your input on this. Thank you all very much for tuning in and checking us out. Please hit that like and subscribe button. Don't hit it, smash it. Because let me tell you something, folks, we know puck. We'll catch you on the next one.